Hi friends. As you know, yesterday, Sunday, May 3rd, was Pete Seeger's birthday. He would have been 101 this year. And at Randolph, we are celebrating him and his message and all the work that he's done, especially here in the Hudson Valley. So I wanted to read a really wonderful book with you about Pete Seeger. It's called The Golden Thread, a Song for Pete Seeger. It's written by Colin Malloy, and the illustrator is Nikki McClure. And the illustrations are amazing. I heard there was a golden thread, a shining magic thing that bounded up our little world. I heard Pete Seeger sing. I want you to notice on each page there are going to be song lyrics. So this one is, "This land is your land, this land is my land." Pete, Pete, what rhymes with Pete? A miner's cleat, a fishing fleet, the sound of many marching feet. To hear Pete Seeger sing, was it a song that I heard sung along a cobbled alley, or from a merry sailing sloop that plied the Hudson River Valley? Hammer bringer, river singer, sailor, soldier, lean bell ringer, a fighter in peace, musician in war, he followed that string till he couldn't no more. But before we get this string a-singin', all strings must have their first beginning. Pete was raised by musical hands, the third-born member of a family band, playing 12-night stands, all hands, bringing back to backwaters, packing sons and daughters in a Model T Ford with the boys on the boards and a bucket to wash all the diapers. And our Pete grew, he grew and grew, 10 stories high it might seem to you. Let's give him a banjo slung over his shoulder, let's give him a song, let's make him a soldier. In World War II, what's a pacifist to do? Armed with a banjo, he followed along to keep soldiers in cheer by singing them songs. A banjo can do more good than a gun, and it's a lot more fun as there are songs to be sung and chords to be rung and voices to be brung round in harmony. Oh, Pete, Pete, when next we meet, we find you on a brimming street. The crowds, they're reaching mountain size, and you're teaching folks to organize, unionize, preaching workers' rights to picket lines at factories, farms, and copper mines. And speaking of union, look at all that detail. I love this. I love the illustrations in this book. By now our Pete's a married man. That thread twines round the two right hands of Pete and Toshi Aileen Ota. This love song wouldn't reach its coda till years had flown and children grown, whom Toshi often raised alone while Pete a-rambled far from home. And what to do with golden thread but keep spinning it, hemming it, till it's worldwide spread. That's what Pete did. He took a song called I'll Be All Right that he heard sung for the labor fight, and he changed it around for a new crowd to hum, to proudly announce, "We shall overcome." This beautiful song with Pete's humble improvement became a great anthem for the civil rights movement. But like every god needs its own believers, don't every thread need its own weavers? A bold ensemble to sing and praise, Ronnie, Fred, and the great Lee Hayes, a friend from Pete's old picketing days. They sang out songs both wild and serene. They gave the world its Good Night Irene, which topped the charts for 25 weeks, a worldwide smash, a #1 peak. I was just singing this song to the girls yesterday. It's one of my favorites. But now our story takes a darker turn, like every season must turn, for at this time a cold war burned, and it seemed that our country had quite lost its way when fear and oppression began to hold sway. Folks were suspected for things they believed, for the thoughts that they carried, for the threads that they weaved. See, Pete sang for anyone, by day or by night, be they capitalist, communist, on left or on right. Our Pete found himself quite caught up in this mess, for not caring a tick about which folks he addressed, or for whom he had sung, and when all's said and done, Pete was then sent to a senator's court, and thereupon angrily asked to report about all his doings and political leanings, and did any of his songs have nefarious meanings? All this just to settle political scores, but Pete, he just said, "It's no business of yours." Which it wasn't, still isn't. It's our right to free speech, without fear of reprisal beyond government reach. Pete was a patriot, was right to resist, but for all of his troubles he was put on a black list. And they blackened his name, and they dampened his flame, and insisted that everyone look on in shame. Here's Pete saying, "It's no business of yours." And the lyrics in the background saying, "It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom." It's another good one. But did this stop our hero Pete Seeger? No! He kept playing music, he kept playing songs, he traveled the world with his family along. With his banjo in tow, playing show after show, Pete followed that thread in its long golden glow. But despite these adventures and the places they took him, back in the U.S., they still wouldn't book him on TV or concerts or radio shows. Pete just had to make it all work on his own. His voice kept on ringing in song, as long as folks sang right along. And after a time, those voices got louder, stronger, and bolder, poetic and vital. With Dylan and Baez, Ox and Odetta, and Pete at the forefront, it was a revival. A festival forged on the shores of New England. In Newport, Rhode Island, these folks found a home, and Pete was the plowman on spade and on furrow, and music's sound seedlings found this fertile loam. That thread, his own homespun bed. This thread was a lifeline, a tuneful gift giver, a thing that entwines us, a deep, winding river. A river that bounded the house that he made on the hills of the highlands in a wide wooded glade, hand-hewn and rough-hewn, timbered and tall, he built with his hands all these high wooden walls. And up in this homestead Pete whiled away times, out chopping old wood and paring up rhymes. But that river, the Hudson, all mired in its glop, who knows what would happen if you just drank a drop? A swimmer should think twice to take just one lap in. Well, Pete, good old Pete, could not let this happen. And on this one he's singing, "Sailing up my dirty stream, still I love it, and I'll keep the dream." So he built him a ship, a fine wooden sloop, to spread the good word on the Hudson's vile soup. The Clearwater sailed from New York to Beacon, Albany, Annandale, land of Mohicans. Like voices harmonious and joined in a song, folks helped make that river flow cleanly and strong. Did you guys know this is why my family moved to New York? So that my husband Eric could work on the sloop Clearwater. As threads have beginnings, so must they have ends. Just like a river in its bows and its bends. As it starts in the mountains and flows to the sea, it spreads the world over when it finally breaks free. Pete's thread stretched long, it bridged generations, through depressions, recessions, and high celebrations. He followed it doggedly and with all of his heart. He wove it and drove it into his own art. Now Pete is beyond us, he's passed on away, but his legacy still surrounds us today. In music, in rivers, in organization, a hero to all in this young, mighty nation. Oh, I heard there was a golden thread, a shining magic thing, that bounded up our little imperfect world. I heard Pete Seeger sing. And that's the end. Thanks for joining me for this book.